Listen to the Coach V Show.
Welcome to the Coach V Show, your show for personal and professional development with expert insights and interviews to help you meet and we work to be our best and live our best life. Offering to you, the listening audience worldwide on the app, on YouTube, on Facebook Live, and on my podcast, life lessons, success frameworks, and behavioral models to help you to achieve your success, but then translate that success into joy, peace, happiness, fulfillment, and family time. Where iron sharpens iron, together we rise. Today, I am absolutely juiced. I had the opportunity to meet this young athlete back when he was still in the NFL, and now he's pursuing some other dreams. Former NFL football player Charles Brown is our featured guest on the Coach V Show today. Highly touted and recruited, coming out of Diamond Ranch High School in Pomona, California. Shout out Pomona and shout out to my boy Roddy Layton. And he was offered scholarships to attend and play football for major college football programs, including UCLA, Oregon, and accepted to play at USC, where he was converted from tight end to offensive tackle in 2005, and he redshirted. In 2008, started all 13 games and received honorable mention honors in the Pac Dime West Side. 2009, named to the Sporting News All-American team, All Pac-10 team, and recipient of the Morris Trophy, which recognizes the conference top offensive and defensive linemen. Selected in the second round as the 64th pick in the 2010 draft to the New Orleans Saints. Also played with the New York Jets, New York Giants, and the Dallas Cowboys. He is currently pursuing his passion of physical therapy and his next stage of life of becoming a physical therapist. Welcome to the Coach V Show, my man, Charles Brown. Brother Charles, welcome to the Coach V Show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be a part of this.
Man, I'm excited. I see that you're outdoors. This is my first outdoor interview. Talk to us and tell the audience where you are. And then after you tell them where you are and what you're doing, let's start with your Genesis story, growing up in Pomona, going to Diamond Ranch and going that way.
Okay, so actually, I grew up in between Los Angeles and the Inland Empire.
Yep.
And I did all of my high school in Pomona. So that's where I got real familiar with Pomona. But I moved around a lot kind of growing up. And then my father passed when I was 13. And my mom was just saying she doesn't want to be in LA. So I ended up moving to Inland Empire. And I went to junior high school at Lower Beer. And then I did my 4 years at Diamond Ranch. And then got recruited to go to USC. And then after that, drafted. You know, it's a long story. We could break it down to get to that point, you know. But eventually I made it to the NFL. And now I'm out here sitting outside because I'm actually a student at LSU right now. And most of the areas where I can do a quiet speak with you, they're students studying. We have exams coming up. So I just chose to shoot the spot outside, you know, where we can get this done.
Yeah, baby. Well, thank you so much for making time, Charles. I mean, Lower Beer Junior High, is that Golden Springs right there? Wasn't it off Golden Springs?
Yeah, it's off of Golden Springs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's off of Golden Springs right there.
So when you were growing up, going to Lower Beer, was sports something you were always into? And what sports did you play?
So growing up, I played basketball and football. And then once I got to Lower Beer, I just only played football. I stuck to that. But it was actually a growing place for me, man, because coming from LA, I did a lot of sports and I did school, but I did it differently. You know, it was more organized in Pomona. And I remember us being on the flag football team.
Right.
We had a lot of talent at Lower Beer, man, and our team went undefeated. But my grades were so low that I almost didn't get to finish the season with them.
Right.
You know, and the friends I had in Diamond Bar, they knew how to balance out the academic schedule with the sports, you know?
Right.
And I learned right away, like, I don't want to let these guys just leave and excel way past what I'm doing. So I was able to mirror what they did in the classroom a little bit too. And it made me, it was a growing moment for me for sure. And it was after my pops passed, you know, it was good that I had something to go up to, you know?
Wow, absolutely. And what Was it just because of the fact that you were competitive that you wanted to be on the same level academically, though you were already on the same level or higher athletically? Is that what brought the awareness, that competition to be the best you can be? Where did that come from?
Looking back, I was more competitive than I realized at the time.
Mm,
I just I just knew what I could do, and I didn't want to be left behind. And I started to realize all the reasons you can't be left behind, and it's not always just in the sport, you know. So it was it was a great moment for me. Looking back on it,
so
you
then
can be
what
left
did you,
behind competitively.
uh-huh. Say that again?
You can be left behind in the competition. You can
Yep.
be left behind amongst your competition, and it's not always directly in the sport. Is the reason that you get left behind.
That's right. So it's a mental game. And then, so what were the habits and what were the actions that you deployed, the action items that you did differently to now mirror what you say your counterparts were doing in the classroom? What was that?
One, you just got to be in class every day for sure. You have to
Right.
be in class, and you have to be paying attention. You have to be paying attention. You don't have to be the best student, but you have to be able to follow along with the rubric of what's going on, you know. And when you get home, you have to take a look. You have to take a look at it once you get home as well. And I didn't have those habits. I did not have those habits when I was growing up in LA. And
That
also,
remi-
I started in private schools, so it's kind of like a lot of the work was done for you, and it was more of a schedule given to you.
right.
And in public school, you're amongst so many other students. The teachers can't keep up with that mass of students without the students having having some kind of a regimen on their own.
Right. So during my time at Mount Sac, I spent 1 year there. There was a counselor there by the name of Evans Roderick. So shout out to the Sac dogs, all the Sac dogs that are going to be watching this. And he had a framework that you just referred to, and he called it um, get up, show up, and stay up. And it sounds exactly what you figured out was a framework to be successful in academics. Is that close? Am I in the neighborhood?
It sounds perfect to me. It sounds perfect to me. And those are the steps, and those steps are in order too, I believe. So get up, show up, and stay up. Staying up is the hardest part. You build up to staying up. You know, I like that. I really like that.
Yeah, and I like how you said it, and that's what reminded me of him because that was the hardest thing for me, being a Pomona guy as well, going to Marshall Junior High and Ganesha High School. It's just to get up. Once I got up and I showed up, I could get a C. I mean, how hard is it to fail a class? It's harder to fail a class than to get up, show up, and get a C, right? I mean, you just absolutely have to do
Exactly,
nothing
exactly.
to get an F. Right. So before we leave that, what
Yeah.
else? Anything else academically? As I'm just talking about what Roderick instilled into me from Mount Sac during my times there, that you want to talk or touch about academics in your junior high years before we get to high school?
Memory that I have, junior high school and high school, is that a lot of people say we're never going to use these things. We'll never use these mathematics,
Right,
or
right,
you
right,
never
right.
use a lot of. And as you're growing up, you kind of agree, and your parents even might agree. But now that I've been going to school, a lot of that mathematics is the baseline for understanding these big concepts, and it's
Mm-hmm.
so much needed, you know. So I've gone back to school and I've gotten to calculus. I didn't take calculus, but I've done well, A's and B's and all my maths up to calculus. And I
Awesome.
realize where each one of those classes relates to something that I'm learning now. So I would just wish that wasn't a common saying that people pass around in high school and junior high. If you never get to use it, you just never got to that level of understanding academics.
Mm. No, that's big time. That's big time. And it's amazing, right? The one awareness that I got as I was getting my classes to leave Mount Sac and San Bernardino Valley College to go to UC Davis was I had to take statistics to get into school. And I figured out really quickly that statistics wasn't even math. It's figuring out the right formula,
Yeah,
being able to read and comprehend and focus so you can realize what formula to use, and then figuring out the patterns of everything, right? It's like you don't really
yeah,
know, and you could talk negatively or have a myth that's not really proven about something until you actually have to do it. And I had no choice if I didn't take that statistics class, which I failed the first time at Mount Sac. and then I had to get added in, right? And then I'm like, man, this stuff is just really just trying to that really courage is the ability to just be willing to figure things out, and that you know that you can figure things out. When I say that, Charles, what do you think about?
Speaking on the statistics and the graphs, I might get you to re-say the end of that, but the statistics and the graphs, it seems simple, man. Everybody can kind of tell what a graph is doing. But on top of that, like when you're doing research and you're reading on research,
Yep.
you have to read the graphs kind of like you're reading a book, you know? So all these pictures of these graphs come together and they form a major picture that's not in the paper, you know? But by understanding the graphs, you should be understanding the trends that are happening in whatever you're studying and how it's affecting whoever the experiment is based on, you know, whatever the situation is. And graphs do a good job of illustrating that without having to write something out, you know?
Absolutely.
A graph is a great shorthand. A graph is a great shorthand for understanding a concept that's going on.
I love that shorthand, right? Just like we did in football. I mean, everything was a shorthand, right? I mean, what's the turnover margin, right? That wins ball games, as well as when you get into the league. What's different than college is usually also penalties, because they're on-spot penalties. So you pay more of a price. What's your red zone efficiency, right? I read up on how many times that you've started games, and there's so many stats and numbers. And I just watched the movie on Netflix called The Black Godfather. Oh,
before you go on, V.
That's
go ahead. That's exactly what I was saying. Like you and I could definitely read graphs of red zone efficiency.
Yes.
Penalties and a first down conversion.
Yeah.
And just by looking at those graphs, you have a great picture of what went on in that game, you know?
Yep. And who won? Who's going to win?
It's a shorthand if you miss it. Exactly. That's exactly.
And it's interesting too, because I watched this Netflix documentary that I really urge everybody to watch. It's about numbers, decision making, and relationships. Where it's a story about Clarence Avant, the Avant story. It's called The Black Godfather. And where he says, you know, life is numbers. Yeah, you start with a number and you end with a number. Anyways, I just was thinking about that as you're talking equations. Now you get to Diamond Ranch. You're in Pomona now. You connect with one of my brothers, Roddy Layton, right? And then you're bigger than most people. You're playing tight end. Talk us through that. What was that like? And just tell us that story, getting to Diamond Ranch, becoming a sought after recruit, developing yourself to figure things out. How did that work out?
I started off my freshman year as a tight end. We actually won the league that year. I'm 90% sure we went undefeated. I'm pretty sure we went undefeated my first year.
Yeah.
And then after that, I converted to offensive line, and we had 2 pretty bad seasons. And then my last season, we had a new head coach coming in.
Yep.
And I just knew I didn't want to have another bad season going into me getting into a college, and also knew I wanted to try to have as much impact as I could.
Right.
And in my mind, I just got done. I remember T.O. had a book. What was the title of his book? It might be "Give Me the Damn Ball." In my head, that's what it was.
Okay.
By Terrell Owens, and that was just painting my picture the best way I can have an impact on the team, trying to get some catches and get some wins. And then also I knew that in the off season, with passing leagues, I could try to get extra looks by getting out there and competing. You know, there's not much competition in the off season for a lineman.
Mm-hmm.
I was just trying to get my name out there as much as possible, and that's what made me want to be a tight end.
Right. And then, so, I mean, you were already 6'4" plus, correct? Already at that time, correct?
Yeah, I was 6'4", about 245 at that time.
Yeah, so you were like a monster. I mean, I think I remember seeing you for the first time during that era, and just how big you were, you know. And so how did that feel like, being like the big dog on campus?
I really didn't look at it as big dog on campus, man, but I did know that I had a lot of work to do. So I remember even just running miles daily with a football in my hands, because I wasn't used to carrying a ball. And I remember my mom looking at me like I'm crazy coming in with this ball. And sweat, I remember rainy days, me and Coach Leach throwing the basketball and running routes in the basketball gym. I just remember a lot of effort, man. And I remember before Layton got there, we didn't have as well of a workout program.
Right.
And I remember me, myself, Brian Holly, a fullback we had that ended up going to Cal, Titus Jackson, a safety we had that ended up going to Oregon.
Mm-hmm. I remember, yeah.
Andrew Ramirez, a quarterback we had. He didn't go on to play sports afterwards, but he somewhere in the military, and he was a good leader, man. And anytime I wanted to run routes, he was usually going to show up. So I had a good group of people around me. And our running back, Brandon Edwards, is probably the most mature in the sport at the time. Like he could do everything. He could catch the ball, he could run, and he knew what he was doing. He even lifted weights outside of our program.
Right.
He just ended up not going for whatever his reason was, you know? Like I said, Sometimes the competition is not directly in the sport. So he had his reasons he didn't make it as far. But I had so many people around me, man. I really wasn't the big guy on campus like that, man. I wasn't.
Right.
Our team might have been, because that's the first time that the football team went to the finals, you know?
Right. So that was interesting because you were the biggest physically on campus, right? You were probably one of the biggest dudes on campus, if not the biggest, but you didn't see yourself as that. Well, what a humble approach and an inward reflection at such a young age. Where did that come from?
I'm not sure, man. I just I had a goal and I had to meet it, you know. And then when you want to meet a goal, and every model that I have is so much higher than where I'm at. You know, Mercedes Lewis was one of my models. You know, I was nowhere near that. Dominique Byrd was one of my models. I was nowhere near that yet. So I didn't really have much to get big-headed about at the time, you know. But in the back of my head, I knew I was going to get there. So if that's big-headed, then possibly. But I'm not going to lie. I knew I was going to the NFL when I was in high school.
Right. So you were humble, but you're going, I'm going to get this done. Talk about that.
My dad played in the NFL for a while, actually, on a practice squad with the Rams.
Yep.
I just seen bodies do it, man, and I've been around bodies that have done it. I didn't see why I wouldn't do it, you know, especially if I kept my grades up. I didn't see a reason why I couldn't do it. And actually, now looking back, you know, you see people fall off, and my sister calls me arrogant sometimes, and I might agree because that vision is crazy to have it, but I truly did have that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've known you for years now. I've never felt that arrogance come from you. But I've always known and felt from you that you know what decision you're about to make. I've just had that. You've had that persona. So I mean, Mercedes, did he play at UCLA? Is that the same tight end that played at UCLA?
Yes, he did. He gave me a pair of his gloves after a game, man. I've used them in every one of my games in high school.
Man, yeah. So I remember. I mean, he was this tall, athletic. I mean, for the college days in Southern California, he was like the Tony Gonzalez of tight ends, right? Just super athletic, really rangy and tall. And then so you saw yourself in that mold. And then were you recruited that way as well to play tight end, or did any coaches talk to you about playing offensive tackle?
So yeah, Mercedes was definitely another level. He was about 6'7", and there were situations in the red zone where they would split him out to be the lone receiver.
Yeah.
You know, and you know how athletic you have to be at 6'7" to be able to do that. You know, to run a slant or run a fade. You know, to where they can't just guard you for one.
That's right.
And I remember we had passing league tournaments, and Coach Layton tried to put me in some of the same situations, and I'll be able to get it done. But I realized that I'm not going against a collegiate athlete here. You know.
Yeah.
So I did know that there's a difference between athleticism between me and Mercedes. And then along the way, UCLA told me I could play tight end, but USC, Pete Carroll, he told me that my frame's just going to put on too much weight, and I'll end up as a outside lineman.
Right. And then one of your people that you thought did it the way you did it, he went to UCLA. You were recruited. Did you take a visit to Oregon and UCLA before you decided to go to SC?
Yeah, so I took a visit to both, man, and they were both great. I got treated well at both. And then also one of my best friends, Osar, went on to play quarterback at UCLA, and we were in the same class. So I was really torn in between going to UCLA and USC. I just couldn't see myself USC just seemed like too much of an opportunity, you know. And even Coach Layton went to USC,
Right.
so he told me about what the environment's like. And there's a guy that was a close friend of him. I believe he went to Mount Sac as well, named Rocky Seto, who was
Yeah,
coaching at
Coach Haruki
USC,
Seto.
coaching line.
Yeah, I remember
Yes,
Haruki.
and he's
Yeah.
he's a Christian man like myself, and just speaking with him, you feel something different, you know. It was just another level. Like it felt like a brotherhood over there, you know. I wasn't sure that I'd be able to play as early as UCLA, but I just knew that being in that mix, I couldn't fail, you know.
Yeah. So I
They were coming
often.
off of a national championship.
Yeah. Keep going. Keep going.
They were coming off a national championship, and they were still having #1 recruiting classes, you know. So it just seemed like, how can this place fail? And I remember I had a meeting with a coach from Oregon. I can't remember his name right now, but for some reason he decided to do the in-house visit that USC was playing Oklahoma, and then USC just blew the roof off with that. And I remember D Bird having a one-handed catch. They ran the
Yeah.
score up on him too. I don't know why he chose to come and have his meeting on the day we'd be watching that game in the house.
Right.
So then that
Right.
kind of, I'm not going to Oregon, you know.
Yeah. Right. I mean, being that I was in college football at that time, I just heard the legends of the crazy energy. I mean, because I know Rocky. I went to Mount Sac with Rocky Seto, right? And you
Okay.
are so right, my man. I think he's actually a pastor now. He gave up coaching and he's a pastor in SoCal, and he's just got a different vibe. And his story is legendary as well. But I heard about Ken Norton Jr. and then Coach Carroll's energy. I heard the vibe and energy there was just on another level. Talk about that.
Yeah. So to sum up that energy, I remember the day before the game and the meeting, the pregame meeting, not the pregame meeting, but the day before the game, at the end of our night meeting, I've never felt that energy on any team. It was just turn out the lights. We know what our task is, and we have little chants that we do within the team.
Uh-huh.
And the room is rocking, man. It's just energy moving, people jumping around, hitting towards each other, but not violent, but just sharing the energy.
Right.
And really, it kind of gets the jitters out. Like, I feel like everybody needs to do that, you know? I've never been on a team that does that. But I've spoke to people in Seattle that knew him at SC, and they say he kind of runs the same type of ship that he used to run back at SC.
Oh, wow. And how did that energy, I mean, because you guys had some dudes, right? I mean, who was your quarterback there during your time? Charles, remind me.
When I got in, Leonard was there in the beginning. I didn't play under Leonard, and then we had John David Booty.
Yep.
That's when I really first started playing from out here in
Yep.
Louisiana. And then we had Mark Sanchez
Mark,
came in, had a
yep.
good year, and then I had a year with Matt Barkley, the young kid that I believe was the first freshman to start at SC.
Yeah.
I
Oh
believe
my
he was
goodness.
the first.
Man, that was some talent. So a few years back, I got a chance to go to a SC homecoming game about four years ago now, right? And they were retiring Troy Polamalu's jersey, and they were like announcing all these people from like golf, soccer, baseball. I didn't, and these are like household names that I don't watch tennis or golf that much or baseball. And I'm like, that guy came to SC. And my wife and I were looking at each other back then and going, man, if the kids came to school here, this would be good for us as parents. Because, I mean, there was red and people tailgating on every piece of property in the general South Central LA area. It was just something. And, I mean, I was in the Western Athletic Conference when I was in football. But just like SEC and the ACC, where you're down there at LSU, USC is just a different flavor. Not just the program, but the tradition on campus, right? Talk about that.
So there's a lot of, just looking back on it, on what you're saying, there's a lot of heritage. And one of the things that I didn't realize before I got there, like, even sports is great. At the time, we had the most players ever in the NFL. I believe we got passed up now.
Yep.
And then by Alabama.
Yep.
And then we also, like, outside of sports, I didn't realize Neil Armstrong represents USC.
Right.
I didn't realize George Lucas represents
George
UFC.
Lucas.
I didn't.
Yep.
A lot of these people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Things I didn't even realize, and it's just like I feel so lucky to be here. You know,
Yeah. And
it's a
before we
great
go into the
heritage.
yeah, and before we go into the pro deal, you getting drafted and going to the league. I mean, you don't see yourself as the big man on campus, but now in your senior year, you're one of the top draft picks, and they're talking about you as like you're one of the best offensive tackles out there. You make all Pac-10, and then you're Sporting News All-American. What does that feel like? All that hard work of you figuring it out from Lower Beer Junior High, which is like my hood. I know so many people from there. I'm from Pomona, and then to get to a place where you accomplish so much and you're on the verge of achieving your dream of going to the NFL. What did that feel like, Charles?
It felt amazing, man. It felt amazing, and not even just. I mean, you're not sure that you're going to be a second round pick in the end of it. So some of the things you just got to have faith and keep working hard.
Yeah.
Especially for me, man, because I got injured in the combine. I wasn't able to in the combine. And then I just put all my cards into my pro debut where I would debut myself. And then I ended up tearing my hamstring my second time running through the 40. So I didn't get to do a lot of those competitions.
Yeah.
But the things that led up to some of those, the things that led up to some of those other accolades, just habits that were instilled in me by the people that came before me, man. Sam Baker, to me, is one of my favorite athletes. And he's a 3-time for sure, possibly 4-time All-American.
Yeah.
And he did it right before me. That was a left tackle before me. So,
Yeah.
I'm just taking on his habits and trying to use his strengths and incorporate them to me if I can, and then use my strengths that he didn't have and incorporate that into my game. And then in the end, I ended up having my picture on the American wall, and that was beautiful. That was beautiful to me, man. It's crazy even thinking about it now because it's just you can't look at the whole thing. You just got to look at the individual goals, but you have to have a good model to show you the goals, SC was kind of like a factory, man. I just showed up and I showed up and worked more so than doing anything extravagant, It's nothing outside of the box. If you got to find somebody that knows the habits that you need to get there.
Yeah, and as we transition into the NFL experience, I hear this all the time because I played at UC Davis Division II football. I never tried out for the league, never got an invitation to anything. But I hear this all the time, and because I'm a professional development guy and that's my industry, I always hear, "Oh, this guy taught me how to be a pro." Or in college, people always say, "Man, this guy right here," like you're talking about Baker. This guy right here taught me what it took to be an All-American. And so can you touch on that?
Yeah.
Like how the model, you got a model, you got people around you, you got Rocky Settle, you got Pete Carroll, but Ken Norton Jr. was there at the time too, correct?
Yes.
So what was that like?
There.
Yeah, what was that like of having the model right in front of you and you're like, man, if I follow this right here, I got a shot.
Yeah. It's great, man. But you also have to have a good model that doesn't much feel that you're a threat to where when he gives you these things, you're going to take his spot,
Yeah.
So I got lucky in that Sam Baker was in the end of his career and I was in the transition to where he realized what I needed to be for the same team. So I got lucky in that, man. I can't lie. And then in the pros, I probably did. You don't get a chance to have that model. And that was probably one of my shortcomings, man. You got to come in straight off and sometimes you got to know the technique that you need. I had a brand new coach my year that I went into starting for the Saints. He was a running backs coach, not an O-line coach. So there wasn't much technical things that he can give me going in each game,
Yeah.
I worked a lot with the right tackle. And techniques. He was older than me. So that helped me out some. But there was a lot of things where I fell short when I got into the pros, to be perfectly honest.
So now you're leaving SC. You're in the combine and you get injured and you're going into draft day not knowing exactly what's going to happen. Talk me through how that felt like, and then still being picked up in the second round by one of the best teams, one of the best quarterbacks out there, and then to be the left tackle. What did that feel like? And talk us through that experience, please, Charles.
The draft, I was very optimistic. There was like a slight chance I'd be a first rounder is what I was reading and seeing around. So I watched that first day. hoping to get drafted, didn't get my name called. I'm not going to lie, I went home pretty mad and didn't sleep well that night. And then the next day, the second round comes on and they're going through names. And I'm not getting called. If you don't know, the 64th pick is the last pick of the second round. So
Right.
it wasn't until that last pick that I actually got my name called. And I was sitting in a room with my family, man. And I was actually mad. And I left the room on like the 29th pick and stopped even watching TV. I went to go walk my dog with a friend. And as I'm out there, I get a call and it's Sean Payton. And it's just a great moment. I don't even remember this, but my friend tells me I let my dog go. He had to go get my dog for me.
right.
But I was just excited, man. And I just knew that it was going to be a lot of competition. The Saints were just coming off of a Super Bowl, and they had 3 Pro Bowlers on their O-line. And even the left tackle was eventually a Pro Bowler before I got my chance to start. So I just knew that it was a situation where I'm going to have to do a lot of work to get on the field.
And then talk about your NFL career. Offline, you talked to me about, hey, I was dealing with some things. I was dealing with some physical issues. I was dealing with some things internally. How did that unfold to you and make you more aware that now has bridged you and transitioned you into what you're doing now?
Man, I just know that everything doesn't last, man. And when it could happen for its own period of time, man. And nothing is guaranteed. I just remember when I was graduating, you think like I'm becoming an adult. I want to start a family. I have the opportunity to start a family. I have the opportunity to buy a house, cars, help my mom out, buy a house for them. And when you do each of those things, they all come with another responsibility that you have. Everything has a responsibility. You don't want to do everything at once. And I kind of did a lot in the beginning, and it was just a lot to handle. And then you eventually get to where you have to let certain things go.
Right.
Or tell the people that they're responsible for this gift and they have to keep this gift up. And, it's just life, man. Life is heavy. My life as a pro was a lot heavier than my life as a college athlete. Even though you think the money should make everything easier in a way to where you can hand things off and pay people to do things. Or maybe I possibly did it the wrong way, but there was a lot more responsibility once I got to the pro level,
Right. And you said that, and unpack that some more for the audience, because that not money doesn't solve everything, and that getting to one level of success comes with more responsibility. And you said the term, this responsibility comes with even more responsibility. Can you unpack that some more for us, please, Charles?
For example, I don't want to put everybody's business. For example, buying a house for my family to live in.
Yep.
You should realize that the house is there, but it doesn't mean to quit your job and just live in the house and then you guys have people come over and stuff like that. You gotta, sometimes when you give a gift, you have to give the responsibility and make sure they understand the responsibility and how it's going to work for a greater good.
Absolutely.
And that, I'm not gonna lie, that house put a lot of stress on me when I wasn't there, because when you buy a house, I didn't know this either. If you don't have the right insurance, everything that happens in the house is on you.
Yeah.
It could be kids have a party and there's underage drinking going on in there, and somebody leaves from there, gets into an accident, or somebody just gets hurt on the property. These are responsibilities you actually have.
That's right. So
and
now
I'm not living there. I'm not living at the house, so it's not like I could just look at the house and
exactly.
tell everybody,
Yeah, exactly. And so now you got to grow up real quick, right? Instead of gradually, like a lot of millionaires that I coach and billionaires, it took them 20 years. So it gave them an opportunity to go from 100,000-aire to multi-100,000-aire. Then 5-6 years later, they became a millionaire and they grew it. You just had these responsibilities like turnkey tomorrow. Right.
I did.
And then now, though, the challenges they feel and cause angst, stress, and overwhelm. Talk about that. And then how you just started to figure out how to unpack that and alleviate that stress and pressure so you could focus on what you need to focus on. Right, Charles?
Yeah. So I didn't do these things all right off the back. You know, I grew into learning these things. So you
Yeah.
you lose some things. But one thing that I think would help anybody is if you find a good psychologist to speak to, man, that has a grander perspective than you have. You know, it relieves anxiety, and it doesn't even have a medical therapist. Like I'm Christian, so I can find a good pastor somewhere. And by this time I'm speaking to different people, I understand if they relay the Christian life the same way that I do, you know, and if there's something I can learn from them.
Yes, sir.
You know, so there's been pastors everywhere, especially when I was with the Giants. I had Bible studies with a pastor. Even here that I'm not playing, I do I help with physical therapy. I'm a physical therapist assistant. And one day there's this man named Checkers that comes in, and randomly he's talking about how he's trying to put together a sermon. I didn't even know he was a pastor at the time. And he's trying to put together a sermon and teaching people how to pray. And just by chance, the night before I was reading the Bible, I don't remember the exact verse, but it's in Psalms. And it's a perfect prayer, and I remember, man, that's a perfect prayer. So then the next day when I see him, I show him this, what I've screenshotted from the day before, and that is a perfect prayer. And then we just ended up clicking from there. You know, I've had dinner with him a couple of times, and he's just someone to speak to that keeps you grounded, you know?
Right.
It's a healthy humiliation is what I want to call it. A healthy humiliation.
I like that. I like that term. I'm going to write that down to make sure I got that down. Healthy humiliation. And so mentorship and having some people around you.
Mentorship is the way to say it. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that mentorship, who has that been for you? Teacher, principal, coach. Let's start from the beginning and start to unpack some people and what they taught you in terms of being a mentor. You talked about Baker already, being a mentor for you while you were at SC. Any people like that come to mind?
Baker's been a big one. Coach Layton has been a big one for me. Coach Steve Broussard has been big. The pastors I mentioned have been big. And I had a professional therapist for a minute, man, for about not a year, but probably 6 sessions over a year. And it was just a no nonsense, just these are the facts. This is what other people do. These are the things that make you the same as others. These are the things that make you different than others. And these are decisions that you can make and where they could possibly lead. You know, even if he's not 100% accurate on exactly the outcomes of what's going to happen, it gets your mind thinking, and it gets you knowing that this path can really go two separate ways, and they could be night and day from each other. This path that I'm on right now.
That's right. And I love, and you tell me if this was a parallel or the same for you. I love how my mentors and the people that I'm around, that what I call iron sharpens iron, together we rise, is that they make and they reassure me that I am my own hero. I'm the author of my story, that regardless of the circumstances, that I'm the captain of the ship, and that I will be the reason for success or failure. And even in failure, my response, I'm in charge of that, and I can be my own hero. When I say that, Charles, does that parallel at all some of the mentorship and some of the advice you've been given?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, man. Because now that I think about it, with you saying that, there's also people that mentored me without really caring about whatever my football career was. You know, like
right.
At the end of the day, the advice could be like, "That's great what you're doing, but I'm going to consistently be me, and come to me if you need this, and don't expect me to feed into the football things that are going on, you know, because that's not really, that doesn't affect my life." So there's just honesty with that. And there's a lot of great mentors like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember one of my biggest mentors, man. One of my biggest mentors, I remember a day me going to his house and telling him that there's a possibility I'm going to the NFL. And I remember him saying, like, you know what the odds of you making it to the NFL were? Like, he didn't believe it.
Right.
But it didn't even piss me off. It just made me feel better that I'm actually here talking to you and you don't see me as that great athlete. And we're actually just having a conversation, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's the hard thing about having a wisdom for awareness and awareness of one's life, is not just to hear the good, but to get the real talk, to get the criticism. And that's what I ask people to tell me about my show or any project that I'm doing. I was like, man, I don't need you to butter me up. This thing is going to be successful, but to make it more successful or maximize this opportunity, I gotta have you tell me the shit that's wrong here. That's what I need you to tell me, right? Some of that real talk. And I say it all the time, hashtag real talk. How has that hashtag real talk? One example you've just given is like somebody saying, hey man, you know what the odds are that you're even going to make it, and how that real talk became a motivating force for you. Any other examples, Charles?
Not of myself, man, but just randomly today, man. So I'm working at Traction. I'm trying to get some physical therapy experience that I put on my application when I apply to school in about a year.
Yep.
And in working at this camp, there's a kid, man. His name is Christian Briggs.
Mm-hmm.
He's a beast. He's 6'4". I say he's about 220. He ran a 4.4 before he messed up his ACL.
Whew.
And this is a couple years ago. Yeah, he's had a couple injuries, man, and he's been out of. He never was officially in the league. He did a couple camps, and he tore a hamstring, got a settlement, left the league, and then he went to Arena League. And now he's trying to get back into the pros.
Right.
And so I've been working with him for like probably 2 months, just trying to get himself back into shape and get his mind right to get into a camp. But a lot of the stuff that's coming from me is all motivating things, all higher hitting things, higher hitting. And on the other side of Traction where I work at, there's Ryan Clark. He's a safety from the Steelers.
Yeah. I remember Ryan.
Played in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's on the opposite side doing the exercise therapy and combine training and all that. And just today, we're trying to set up times, for Ryan to be able to work with him. And I could just see that the advice from Ryan sees athletes so much more often than I have. He's been out the league longer. He's been training athletes all the time. He's just telling him, no matter what you look like, if you don't get in here day in and day out and put in this work, it's not going to happen. The opportunity is going to slip through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's me and Ryan are coming from the same place, but his advice was different than my advice, And I just saw that Christian's going to learn different things from different people along the way.
That's right.
In different ways.
That's right. And so in that, I met you because Roddy Layton invited me to come speak at a camp, and it was your camp where we first formally met. Where does that come from? Like your need to reach back to Pomona, our hood, and offer this free camp, the Charles Brown camp, and that you would come there. All of your boys that you mentioned that you used to play with, I met them there as well. They were all there helping out at that camp. Where does that come from? Like that you would reach back to the community where you grow up and help like that. Where does that come from? What's that about?
Another thing, man, just I didn't have a direct picture of it like how I had Sam Baker, but I knew that a lot of athletes come back and they give, and it's the right thing to do. But even more than that, like Roddy Layton always said something, man. Like if you probably ask him what's one thing that sports do, he's gonna tell you it brings people together.
Right,
different races, different statuses, and then I just knew that doing the camp through Roddy Layton, I'm gonna be able to see a clear picture of that, and it's gonna be motivating, and I'm gonna meet a lot of people. I met you. I met a girl that's amazing to me named Jet Lagashyan, who's probably playing pro golf somewhere right now, but she filmed the camp, and at the time she was like 13 years old playing golf.
Remember her.
Yeah, great girl. I talked to her about a year ago, but haven't spoken since. She was taught herself how to play piano as well, man.
She's awesome.
Golf, and I knew she was going to a school. She got an offer, and it was a Christian school, some private Christian school. I'm not sure what it was though. But yeah, where were we at before that? Oh yeah, the camp. So I just knew that it had to be done. What am I doing in the summertime?
Yeah.
I'm working out probably 4 hours out of the day. I probably have a summer school class that doesn't take up much time, and I just might as well organize this camp and see how it turns out. And the first one turned out amazing, and then we did it again. We did it 7 times. I wish I was still doing it, but that's kind of selfish. I've been able to work other people's camps and see their vision of how it should work. So it is what it is.
Yeah, no doubt. So you were with the Saints, the Jets, the Giants, and the Cowboys. Let's just break down some of the things that you learned positively from the cultures that you were a part of during those 4 teams. Could you help us with that? Give us some insight. What did you learn from being around Sean Payton? Because from the outside, him and Drew Brees look like they're amazing people, and they're all about it. They're all about the work, putting in the work, all of that. What are some life lessons that you learned cultural wise from those organizations you were a part of?
Man, you gotta learn who you are as a person, man. That's
Mm,
one of the most important things in life. Learn who you are as a person, and if you have a true image of who you are as a person, it's gonna carry on no matter what you're doing. If you're a hard worker in football, it's not gonna be hard for you to be a hard worker in another avenue. If you're
mm,
even if you're a forerunner, it's good to know what you actually are. You know that
right.
you're a forerunner somewhere else, so you got to figure out how to get help after you already established the lead. Just learn who you are, and be confident in who you are, and
Yep.
it's gonna be accepted. It has to be.
Yeah. So being around a guy like Drew Brees for a handful of years, what was that like? And how is he? And what did you learn? Do
Drew's
you learn anything?
amazing. I didn't learn anything probably directly from him, but from watching what he does, I know he's a guy that at the beginning of his day he has a set of goals. He has a list of things he wants to do. By the end of the day, he's going to go through that list, and Drew's probably going to be a person that got through that whole list.
Right.
Whereas me, if I have a list, it's just a basic guide. I'm gonna deviate from the exact plan. I'm gonna kind of go
Right,
with the
right,
flow a
right.
little bit. I just know the difference between us in that part, and it's worked a lot better for Drew than it has for me.
And what about Sean? And what about Sean Payton? A Super Bowl winning coach. Well, what's your take on him?
Sean Payton is actually more down to earth than you would expect, man. Like you would expect Sean Payton to have the Drew Brees mentality. He probably does, but he's a lot more laid back of a person than you would expect, man. But when it's time
Wow.
time to work, it's time to work. But he knows how to calm down and just be one of the guys on the plane after the game on the ride home. He's one of the guys in a way.
Yeah,
He's not a
yeah,
coach that you're like he's in the front. We can't talk to him until we get back into a meeting room. No matter how I played. He's
yep.
just he'll give it to you straight. You can talk to him right then and there anytime.
Wow. So on this portion, here's your couple of minutes. Take your time, Charles. What's your message to the world? I mean, what's the meaning for life? Or is there anything that you'd like, or anyone you'd like to shout out? Take your time.
Uh, like I said before, man. One thing I want everybody to know is you got to be comfortable in being yourself, and
Mm,
you got to figure out how to. The only way to do that is to be yourself, and every image you have of yourself is probably not true, and the world is going to show you that. Just be true to yourself, man. And I don't want to make anybody in a religion, but the Christian religion, I think, will give you a good layout of what's going on around you, the reasons people feel the way they feel, the reason you get the reactions you get, uh, the reason why your highs can actually be lows. It's a good mirror to look through, man. That's one thing I would like to give a shout out to my boys for sure that were part of that team that I told you gave me a lot of motivation to change. Lamont Morgan, he went to Diamond Ranch High School with me. He played basketball. He went to Saddleback College for a while. Ended up going to BYU
mm-hmm.
and playing in a couple international leagues. I know that. And then James Powell is another one of my friends. He went to Louisville with me
Mm-hmm.
and ended up going to Glendora High School and got a scholarship to Santa Barbara where he played ball. Uh, as I say that, I just remember a highlight, man. He scored something like 60 points.
Wow.
And I
60
remember
points.
I remember all of us talking about it. It might have been like 40 some points. It was a crazy amount of points.
Right.
And he hit a game winning shot right at the buzzer. But I remember us talking about it as a group. Me and my boy Osar, because he was at UCLA close to me. And then we go to a dinner later. We're watching ESPN Top 10. And I'm like, I bet you James shows up on this. And then they get
Right.
to the top 10 plays and he's on there. And it just blew my mind. So shout out to James for that.
Yeah.
And then last but definitely not least, my boy Osar, man. He played quarterback at UCLA. We went to Louisville together. And now he's got a beautiful family, man. And he's very deep in his faith. And I call him for guidance on that sometimes too. And we share scripture and share thought. And yeah, that's what I've got for you right now, V.
No, I love that. I love that. So now we got Charles Brown here on the Coach V Show, where iron sharpens iron. Together we rise. We got Coach Brown on the hot seat, and we're going to say a few phrases, and we're going to see what Charles Brown comes to mind with that USC education down at LSU doing his thing. So Charles Brown, here is a Pomona quote from our boy Sugar Free that says, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. What comes to mind when you hear that phrase, Charles Brown?
Man, right now I'm pulling everything back to be who you are, man. If you're always yourself, you don't have to make any hard decisions. You know what you're going to do.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you talked about knowing yourself. So I often teach and train my clients in terms of character is that you know who you are. You know who your God is or what you believe in. You know what direction you're going in. You know the difference between right and wrong. When I say that, and that being character, and that can help people figure out who they are. What's your thought, Charles Brown?
You have to repeat that. V. I feel like I'm gonna finish that with a period.
That you know who you are, right? So when we talk about knowing yourself, I always just try to coach up my people that, hey, you know who you are, you know who or what you believe in, you know what direction in life. I don't feel like you need to know exact destinations. That's going to help you, no question. But most people just need to have a direction and that you know the difference between right and wrong. And when you know those four things, Charles, I believe in coach and train that's going to help you filter out a lot of bullshit and be able to focus and do your thing. Your thoughts?
I believe that too, man. I believe those are basically the ingredients for success, man. And knowing yourself is not like there's a finish line. This is me. Knowing yourself is like how you feel, how you feel along the way. I have a certain, I can keep up with this amount of being uncomfortable in this situation. And it's not a problem. I know myself. I've done this before. Or, oh, I failed in this. It's cool. I know myself. I failed before. Now what do I do next? There's not a finish line to knowing yourself. It's like building up what you have inside, man.
That's right. That's right. And one of the my past guests that was on the show earlier this year, Colonel Wills, he's always talking about being a lifelong learner. Right. And then me and him always talk about, hey, but you add what you know, the knowledge of what your goals are, who you want to become with action, like your boy was saying in the training. Hey, this deal is about that action, consistency, performance, execution. I mean, you combine those things, they could be very powerful. So we're talking about knowledge and then these actions of accountability according to your dreams, hopes, and aspirations. What's your thoughts on that, Charles?
And man, the actions can go away. Over amount of time, if you don't take action, there may be less actions that you could take, man. Less opportunities. Make the most of the opportunities that you have,
Yeah, that's absolutely some real talk. So we got a minute here, Charles, before I do the send off. Is there anything, what are the final words for Charles Brown on your first time on the Coach V Show? Because when you're back in SoCal, and COVID is over, we got to get you in studio. So there's a brand new studio, Dash Radio Studios on Hollywood, California. It's actually brand new. Right when they opened up, 2 weeks later, the whole thing had to shut down because of COVID. I would love to get you in studio. But until the next time I can get you on the show, any final lasting shout outs and words from the Charles Brown, All-American USC, All Pac-10, NFL career, and now chasing his dream and figuring out who he is to pursue what he's doing in terms of being a physical therapist. Last shout outs.
Okay. Yeah. In short, all those goals, man, all those accolades you just pointed out, it's just goals, man, and consistently showing up. But most importantly, man, if you're out there listening to this right now, I want to let you know you're in the right place. Because Beyond Me is going to be a great host, a great speaker. I had him at my camp, and that's the first time I heard him speak, and I know that he delivers, man. I know he comes from a passionate place. And if it's your first time listening to this, keep tuning in. He just mentioned to me that he has other shows. I didn't know about these other shows. I'm going to tune in and watch the previous ones myself.
Well, thank you, Charles Brown, for coming on the Coach V Show. And that's it. Tune in next time. Me and brother Charles Brown from Pomona. That's where we're from. Shout out Pomona. And everybody here at the studio and Coach V Show want to wish Charles Brown, as you're down there back on campus, being a lifelong learner, chasing your dream, man. Big shout out and big ups to you. I mean, that's what's up right there, that you're out there living your dream. It is of great importance for each of us to better ourselves, just not for the sake of achieving success, but for the sake of being our best. In doing so, we realize the best of our abilities, and that everything and anything that we dream and would work for can be achieved. This is how this success coach, keynote speaker, Hollywood radio show host, and author lives, all about faith and family. Grateful for God's amazing grace. Until next time, it is your boy Coach V and brother Charles Brown on the Coach V Show, where iron sharpens iron. Together we rise. Peace.
Let's go. Fight on.